It all started with what looked like an ordinary scam contact, a cold email, a sketchy link, maybe a fake warning about a security breach on the computer. For most people, that moment triggers confusion, a bit of panic, an instinct to do what the stranger says just to get it over with. But this time, the person on the other end had no intention of complying. Instead of fear, there was curiosity. Instead of confusion, there was strategy. The scammer, confident and practiced, launched into the same deceptive routine he's used hundreds of times: urgency, threat, manipulation. He believed he had found another easy mark, someone naive, someone ready to comply without question. But what he didn't know was that he was speaking to someone who has made it his mission to fight back, to expose these criminals, and to waste no time turning the scam around. This wasn't just another scam-baiting video. It was a full psychological chess game. In the coming minutes, the scammer's confidence would erode, his composure would crack, and the power dynamic would flip entirely. What he thought was an easy win would become his worst nightmare. The predator was about to become the hunted, and every trick he tried to use would be turned against him. This wasn't just about entertainment. It was about delivering a lesson to scammers everywhere. The days of easy exploitation are numbered, and the moment knowledge replaces fear, deception loses its power. The scammer began with practiced precision. He used fear as his tool, warning of a supposed breach, and implying that personal information, banking details, or private files were at risk unless the victim complied with his instructions. His voice was calm, authoritative, rehearsed, every bit the imposter he was pretending to be. This was a classic blueprint, one designed to make people scared, to make them comply before thinking. But instead of compliance, what met him was composed curiosity. Scammer Payback didn't panic. He asked questions. He sounded unsure, gentle, almost vulnerable enough to keep the scammer talking without raising suspicion. With each response, the scammer's confidence grew. He guided step by step, insisting the victim download remote access software. This is the moment scammers usually gain total control. Once in, they can lock screens, simulate fake scans, and manipulate victims into paying money or surrendering critical details. For most victims, that's the end of the story. But here, that was just the beginning. While the scammer focused on gaining access, Scammer Payback didn't just wait, he observed. Every click, every command, every folder the scammer opened told a story. The screen revealed more than just instructions. It showed evidence of the entire operation. Fake invoices designed to seem urgent and official. Scripts and tools that had been copied from older scams. A wealth of call logs and notes that betrayed how many people had already fallen victim. This was no amateur. This was a scam network, and it was on display in real time. Still playing the role of the confused victim, Scammer Payback let the scammer feel secure in his control. "Okay," he said. "I see the window loading. Let me know what I do next." Every answer fed the scammer's confidence. He believed he was dominating the moment. But hidden beneath the surface, a plan was unfolding. Instead of giving control of his computer, the victim mirrored actions back, enough to keep the scammer unaware that his own system was subtly being analyzed instead. Then came the pivot. Without accusation, without confrontation, Scammer Payback mentioned something unusual. "Wait," he said casually. "I don't think this is right. There's something on your side." For most scammers, a suggestion that their operation might be compromised is a trigger. The scammer chuckled at first, dismissing it as confusion. But that seed of doubt was planted. Doubt quickly became discomfort. Discomfort escalated to nervous clicks, anxious commands, exclamations in the background. The confident tone that once ruled the conversation began to falter. Scammer Payback did not rush. He simply maintained a steady narrative, observed, pointed out oddities, feigned worry, and let the scammer unravel on his own timeline. This psychological shift, from predator to panic, was subtle but devastating. Every moment the scammer doubted his own control was a moment lost in confidence and power. As the tension grew, the scammer's manner shifted. The calm, measured voice that had led the deception now cracked. Words became fragmented. Instructions lost structure. An undercurrent of panic began to seep into every sentence. Where once there was authority, now there was hesitation. Where once there was control, now there was chaos beneath an attempt to appear composed. The scammer started double-checking his own instructions, rereading files, opening and closing programs at random. trying to find balance in a conversation that no longer felt familiar. Scammer Payback stayed composed, offering gentle affirmations like, "Oh, I see," or "That's odd." Phrases that kept the scammer talking, kept him reacting, and most importantly, kept him in a state of heightened uncertainty. In the background noises of the call, something began to change. The scammer wasn't just problem-solving, he was directing others to help. Voices emerged, chairs scraping, commands blurting out, but none of it steady enough to calm the storm. Instead, these alerts indicated something far more impactful than a simple scam in motion. The scammer's own nerves were unraveling. Then the psychological crescendo. Scammer Payback claimed that the files the scammer was trying to use might already be compromised, that a deeper layer of problems was spreading faster than either of them expected. He barely needed to embellish the threat. The idea alone was enough to push the scammer further off balance. The person whose job it was to manipulate others now found himself manipulated by fear of exposure. Suddenly defensive, the scammer tried to regain footing. He began a plea not for cooperation, but for control. He retraced his steps, closed programs aggressively, tried to disconnect commands, and even attempted to disconnect the call. Desperation bled into his tone. Instead of dictating terms, he was begging for clarity, asking questions he had no answers to. He lost his script, lost his rhythm, and most importantly, lost his calm. The transformation was complete. The confidence of a scammer had been replaced by the vulnerability of someone who realized that everything he thought he commanded had slipped away. The predator was now reacting to the threat of losing everything, not just this call, but the illusion of control that fueled every scam he ran. Then came the final blow: silence. The scammer disconnected abruptly, leaving unanswered questions and a trail of panic in his wake. Another scam attempt was not just stopped, it was dismantled, emotionally and psychologically. Scammer Payback leaned back, quiet but victorious, knowing that another fraudster had faced the consequences of playing with the wrong opponent. When the call finally ended, there was no dramatic explosion, no shouting match, no grand reveal. What remained was a profound shift, a scammer without his composure, a confidence replaced by confusion, and the knowledge that fear, once turned outward, can dismantle deception from within. This story isn't just entertaining. It's educational, informative, and a stark reminder that scammers thrive on fear and ignorance. Real companies do not cold call with threats. Real tech support does not demand remote access. Legitimate services never rush you into panic before thinking. When someone pressures you with fear, urgency, and manipulation, that's not help, that's exploitation. Creators like Scammer Payback exist not to humiliate, but to educate, expose, and protect. What you watched here is part of a larger fight against online deception, a crusade that holds fraudsters accountable, and importantly, teaches viewers how to recognize and respond when someone tries to trick them. Every scam exposed here makes it slightly harder for scammers to operate. Every interaction shared is a lesson learned. Every viewer becomes more informed and less vulnerable. So what can you take from this? First, don't panic. When someone calls or messages claiming your device is compromised, take a breath and verify independently. Do not grant remote access to strangers. Legitimate support does not approach you that way. Second, talk to the people around you, especially older family members, about these tactics. Awareness is the greatest defense. Third, report suspicious calls to appropriate authorities and platforms so they can track, shut down, and prevent future scams. And finally, share this story with others. Share it with friends, family, and anyone who might be targeted next. When knowledge spreads, fear loses its power and scammers lose their victims. Awareness isn't just protection, it's prevention. Stay alert, stay informed, and remember, confidence and calm always defeat fear and manipulation.